Filipino fan because I've never seen Alex play live.
Oh my gosh!
Yeah.
So what was your impression of the Filipino audience who watched Alex Eala on center court?
My impression of the Filipino fan was so amazing. That's why I stayed to watch the night match, to hear the fans,
Wow.
to feel the energy that comes, because that's all we talk about, but I haven't been able to experience it in person. So I stayed after I was done with work, and I had an absolute amazing experience to see the energy of the crowd.
Phenomenal.
Yeah.
What happens when a 19-year-old walks into one of tennis' biggest tournaments and suddenly makes the entire WTA tour look a little nervous? That is exactly what unfolded at the Indian Wells Open, where Alex Eala stunned fans, rattled top players like Coco Gauff, and sparked serious reactions from analysts, including Coco Vandewege. The crowds are growing louder, the hype is exploding, and one mystery is hanging over the sport. How big can this rise actually become?
It's like, oh, I want to go watch Alex Eala play. Like, oh my gosh, I want to watch. My mom's Filipino, so she's crazy about Alex.
Did you say that she wanted to make her a Filipino dish and then like meet her mom or something too?
Yeah,
Alex's mom.
Yeah. My mom went to US Open last year and she was just, Alex was obviously huge then. And she was like, oh my gosh, I want to see Alex. Maybe I'll get a picture with her. But I also want a picture with Jenny. I want a picture with everyone. And I was like, okay, mom, let's take it one at a time. But then obviously when she knew Alex was playing at India Wells, she's like, I'm going to make her pancit, which is a famous noodle dish.
Love watching the rise of Alex Eala? Subscribe to the channel and stay tuned for every big moment ahead. The conversation around women's tennis has taken an unexpected turn lately, and it is happening faster than anyone predicted. A teenager who was once viewed as a long-term project is suddenly forcing the biggest names on the tour to pay attention right now.
let me tell you, I'm definitely not normally like this when I lose.
No.
But this was definitely a special circumstance. I remember the last couple of match points, I was able to save a match point, you know.
Yeah.
And I just tried to prolong the match as long as I could because I knew that this is where I wanted to be. And then after I sat down, after the handshake, I looked up and just so many flags of the Philippines and so many Filipinos. It was past midnight, they were there to stay, and I had just had the best run of my career so far.
When experienced voices like Coco Vandewege begin openly talking about the growing influence of Alex Eala, it becomes clear that this surge is not just hype, but the beginning of something far bigger on the WTA stage.
You know, a lot of people are saying that she could be one of the most popular players on the tour.
I would say so. She packs every court that she goes to. Even that late night match still had a great crowd around there. It's one of my favorite aspects about tennis. Tennis is a global sport. Tennis is something that everyone can play, watch, enjoy. And then hearing all the fans say, I buy Tennis Channel so I can watch Alex.
Oh,
and
yeah. Really?
there's a deal, $77 for 1 year. It's going on. You can get it on Tennis Channel.
Okay, wait, that's for all.
Because this is no longer just a story about a young player winning a few matches. This is about a player who might be quietly reshaping the energy of women's tennis. And the moment that forced everyone to finally pay attention happened under the bright desert lights of Indian Wells Open.
Alex, pleasure to talk to you with Front Office Sports. So we cover the business side, and you are a huge part of the sports business side of tennis right now.
Okay.
But one of the things I want to ask you first is, it's been basically a year since Miami, your breakthrough. Honestly, kamusta? How have you been since then?
Okay naman, hindi masyado naninibago compared to nung Miami last year. I'm adjusting pretty well. I think I've been doing well since then. And
At first, the match looked predictable. For the opening few minutes, it felt like the tennis world was about to get exactly what it expected. Coco Gauff stepped onto the court with the calm confidence of a top-ranked star who had already beaten Eala just days earlier. The early exchanges followed the familiar script as Gauff quickly grabbed the first 2 games of the opening set and looked fully in control. From the outside, everything seemed routine. Gauff had the ranking, the experience, and the recent head-to-head victory that suggested this match would be another straightforward win. While many players struggle with that environment, Eala appeared to grow more comfortable with every passing rally. What followed looked less like a comeback and more like a transformation. The longer the match continued, the clearer it became that Eala had unlocked something in her game. She began absorbing Goff's pace, redirecting shots with clever angles, and forcing extended rallies that slowly tilted the momentum in her favor. Suddenly, the match stopped feeling predictable. Every time Goff attempted to regain control of the points, Eala seemed to have a perfectly timed response waiting. When Goff pushed aggressively toward the baseline, Eala countered with precise defensive movement. When Goff tried to shorten the rallies with attacking shots, Eala responded with controlled aggression that kept the ball deep and forced errors.
In terms of Alex Eala's serve, she was winning 59% of her first serves in the first 2 matches she played.
Right.
Last night, she was down at 36%. Before the match, I said she had to serve well. She had to hold her serve. She served poorly based on this event. The standard of her serve in the first 2 matches was far better than last night.
So you needed her service game to get a little better because she was really very good in the.
The shift was impossible to ignore. After dropping the first 2 games, Eala surged through the remainder of the set with remarkable authority, closing it out 6-2 in a sequence that left spectators staring at the scoreboard in disbelief. The comeback was not simply impressive, it was commanding, and the reaction inside the stadium reflected that realization as the crowd began to sense they were witnessing something more significant than just another upset. The rallies grew louder, the atmosphere intensified, and the match slowly transformed into the kind of spectacle that draws attention far beyond the tennis world. By the time the second set began, the momentum had clearly changed sides. Eala stepped onto the court looking increasingly confident, while Goff found herself scrambling to keep pace with a player who seemed to have discovered the perfect balance between patience and attack. Yet here it was coming from a teenager who had not even broken into the WTA's top 20 rankings. Then the match took an unfortunate turn. As the second set progressed and Eala maintained her advantage, Goff began experiencing physical discomfort that ultimately forced her to withdraw from the match. It was a disappointing conclusion to what had been building into a dramatic contest, and the atmosphere inside the stadium immediately shifted from excitement to concern. What happened next, however, revealed another layer of Eala's character.
I mean, I would like to start with giving the credit to Alex. I mean, what the hell she played in the first set. Yeah, I mean, she was smashing the ball and she was cleaning the lines and all that. So, wow, it's a next generation coming. That she's gonna come up and she's gonna be really good in a couple of years. So, first of all, big credit to her.
Instead of celebrating a career-defining victory, she immediately expressed concern for her opponent's health. In her post-match media session, Eala made it clear that winning under those circumstances was not the way she had hoped the match would end. Her focus was not on the upset. It was on wishing Goff a quick recovery. That moment of sportsmanship resonated strongly throughout the tennis community. For many observers, it demonstrated that Eala's rise was not only about talent, but also about maturity and respect for the game. But while the manner of victory sparked conversations about her character, the performance itself sparked something even bigger. It reignited the growing conversation about yet the story does not end there. Former players and analysts have begun noticing something unusual about Eala's presence at tournaments. Her matches consistently attract massive crowds, sometimes even overshadowing contests featuring higher-ranked players. The atmosphere surrounding her matches has become part of the spectacle. Former American professional Sam Querrey recently highlighted this phenomenon while discussing the growing excitement around Eala's performances. According to Querrey, the buzz surrounding the young Filipino star resembles the kind of attention usually reserved for the biggest names in the sport.
Picture yourself getting to a point where you'd be ranked, and then second, did you picture this level of Filipino fanfare to follow that when that did happen?
Of course, my goal as a junior was to be ranked high, and so I did. I was able to envision myself being somewhat at the top. I did not expect this sort of fan base or crowd rallying behind me, but it's an incredible privilege to have, I tell you. And it's not something your everyday person can experience, so I'm always so grateful.
In some cases, the excitement has even exceeded expectations. Reports from the opening rounds at Indian Wells indicated that matches featuring Eala generated record-breaking attendance numbers and impressive ticket sales, an extraordinary development for a player still working her way up the rankings. This surge of interest has caught the attention of established stars across the WTA. Players who have spent years building their reputations are now watching the rise of a teenager whose popularity appears to be accelerating faster than anyone predicted. That is where the perspective of Coco Vandewege becomes particularly interesting. As someone who spent years competing at the highest level of professional tennis, Vandewege understands how rare it is for a young player to create this kind of impact so quickly. In recent discussions about the state of the WTA Tour, she pointed out that Eala is doing something that goes beyond winning matches. She is generating energy. According to Vandewege, the presence of a player who can capture the imagination of fans in multiple countries represents a powerful force within the sport. Tennis has always thrived when charismatic young stars emerge and draw new audiences to the game. Eala appears to be doing exactly that. Her rise is not only inspiring fans in the Philippines, but also attracting international attention as audiences become curious about the young player challenging some of the sport's biggest names. That growing curiosity has started to influence the environment inside stadiums.
And sadly, even with the valiant effort that she put in, it actually got a little worse.
Yeah, the more she tried, it was clear the further away her game felt in terms of her serve.
And the first time I've ever seen frustration in her face.
The positive of her serve was that she won more points on her second serve. Even last night in defeat, she won 47%, but that was lower than the stats she had against Jastrzemska and Goff. So 23% down on her first serve in her.
Several players have admitted that competing against Eala feels different because the crowd energy often shifts in her direction. Packed stands, enthusiastic cheers, and a sense of anticipation have become common features of her matches. Even experienced competitors have acknowledged how intense those environments can feel. Jessica Pegula recently described stepping onto the court against Eala and immediately noticing the unusually large crowd gathered to watch the match. That is why comments from Coco Vandewege have generated so much discussion. Her analysis suggests that Eala's rise represents more than a temporary surge of attention. Instead, it might be the early stages of a long-term transformation within the WTA Tour. The sport has always evolved through the emergence of new stars. Each generation introduces players who redefine expectations, bring new audiences to the game, and challenge established hierarchies. From groundbreaking champions to charismatic personalities, those figures shape the identity of women's tennis for years to come. Eala appears to be positioning herself within that tradition. Her performances demonstrate a blend of athleticism, tactical intelligence, and composure that typically develops much later in a player's career. At the same time, her humility and professionalism off the court have strengthened the admiration she receives from fans and fellow competitors. This combination is rare.
I know you were mostly supporting Alex, but I have to say, it is great to be on a crowded court. I've played this tournament for many years, and to see the stadium full, it means a lot. And also, like to thank Alex for bringing a new demographic to the sport. I really appreciate. I think it's great. I know sometimes it's tough when you're playing against a home crowd, but I think that it's great for the sport. So keep being enthusiastic and keep rooting for your player. Yeah.
It creates the kind of narrative that sports audiences love to follow. And if the momentum continues, the implications could be enormous. Consider what would happen if Eala captured the Indian Wells title in her debut appearance. Such an achievement would place her in a unique category within tournament history, as no player has ever won the prestigious event on their first attempt. The historical significance alone would be remarkable, but the impact on her career could be even greater. A victory at Indian Wells would likely propel her rapidly up the world rankings, while confirming that her success is not simply a brief moment of brilliance. It would also reinforce the belief shared by many analysts that Eala possesses the potential to become one of the defining figures of the next generation. That possibility is precisely what makes her story so compelling. Fans are not merely watching a talented young player improve. They are witnessing the early chapters of a career that might shape the direction of women's tennis for the next decade. Coco Vandewege understands that dynamic well. Having experienced the pressures and expectations that accompany elite competition, she recognizes the difference between a promising prospect and a genuine phenomenon. In her view, Eala has already crossed that line.
It's so special, they make me more and more special. To be Filipino is something I take so much pride in. And I don't have a home tournament, so to be able to have this community here at the US Open, I'm so grateful that they made me feel like I'm home.
The impact is visible everywhere. Crowds are growing larger. Media coverage is expanding. And players across the tour are beginning to adjust their expectations when they see Eala's name on the draw sheet, because the assumption that she is simply another rising star no longer feels accurate. She is becoming something more. The victory over Coco Gauff at Indian Wells may eventually be remembered as one of those defining moments when the tennis world collectively realized that a new force had arrived. And if Coco Vandewege's observations are correct, this moment might represent only the beginning. Because Alex Eala is not just climbing the rankings anymore. She is quietly changing the atmosphere of the WTA Tour itself. And the most intriguing question now is not whether she will become a star. It is how far her influence might reach once this remarkable rise truly begins. What makes this entire situation even more fascinating is that the ripple effect of veteran observers often say you can tell when a new era is approaching because the established players start talking about a younger competitor differently. Instead of describing them as talented or promising, they begin acknowledging that this player brings something unique to the sport.
It's amazing. I mean, I played her when she kind of broke out last year in Miami, and I'm from there, and the whole crowd was against me, and I was like, what on earth is going on? Like, where do these people come from? And then week after week, as she has done well and established herself as a really good player on tour, they all come out to support her. And so I think we saw that in Australia when it was kind of overcrowded. They put her on too small of a court. We saw it here. You can hear it from the hotel. You can hear the crowd roaring, especially at night. So it's incredible.
That is exactly the kind of language that has started appearing whenever conversations turn toward Alex Eala. Former professionals such as Coco Vandewege have emphasized that Eala's influence is not limited to the technical side of tennis. According to Vandewege, the most impressive aspect of Eala's emergence is how quickly she has captured the imagination of fans. The energy surrounding her matches feels noticeably different, as if audiences are witnessing the early stages of something that could become historically significant. That kind of reaction is extremely rare for a player who is still climbing the rankings. Normally, athletes gain this level of attention after winning multiple major titles or spending years establishing themselves at the top of the sport. This resilience has turned her into a difficult opponent for even the most seasoned competitors. As tournaments continue and the spotlight grows brighter, one reality is becoming increasingly clear. The WTA Tour may be watching the rise of a player whose influence extends far beyond individual victories. If the momentum continues, the story of Alex Eala will no longer revolve around potential or promise. It will revolve around transformation. Because when a player begins changing the atmosphere of entire tournaments, drawing new audiences into the sport, and earning the admiration of veterans who once dominated the stage, it usually signals that the next chapter of tennis history has already begun.